One Piece chapter 1121 was an incredible chapter, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So first of all, we start off the chapter with Saturn attacking them full force, and Luffy's over here saying, "Watch out for the claws, they're poison, don't touch them." And can you imagine being boxed in on a ship over water, and you have this demonic spider creature hitting you with all of its legs, like pow, 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 with its poisonous claws, and then somebody's like, "Hey, don't touch those." And it's like, I am doing my darndest. I'd really like not to, but what am I supposed to do? This picture of, first of all, Bonnie back in her freest form, really sweating, like really panting and overwhelmed by what's going on. And then you have Luffy and that look over his shoulder, that like serious look. At first I misread it and I thought that he was looking back and there were more elders coming or something and he was overwhelmed and concerned, and I was like, oh no, that gives me chills. Like, that's very ominous if he's looking like this. But it actually turns out that he was just looking really, really intense. Like, he was prepared. He was getting ready to throw this punch that would disrupt the attack. And I love the look on Saturn's face after Luffy hits him, and Saturn looks at Bonnie in her freest form and he goes, "Bonnie?" Like, he's realizing this is Bonnie. This is the one that I experimented on, that I gave her this messed up devil fruit for fun. This is her, and she's now looking like the one that I'm trying to destroy. I absolutely love that. And then at the same time, you have Luffy that's hyping her up. "That's it, Bonnie. You do it." Which one of my patrons pointed this out, and I thought the same thing when I first read this, is back when Bonnie was like, I don't know how to throw this punch, or I don't know how to hit. And Luffy was like, "I'll teach you how to do it." And then here in this chapter, we actually get to see that happening. We get to see him hyping her, leading her, building her up, and then standing behind her. I'm getting ahead of myself. Whew, I just really love this chapter. Anyway, in Vegapunk's message, he's reminding us that the world is sinking, and that the sinking of the continents was a man-made disaster brought to us by these ancient weapons, which by someone's design still exists today. So this is stuff that he's already said. He's kind of repeating himself a little bit. But I love the next line. "The machinations of history and fate seem to insist upon the obliteration of the last descendants of rare races." What do you mean? So the plot of history and of fate is that these rare races of people have to be destroyed. My first thought to interpret this is that something in the Void Century, something in history that the world government knows, is that they need to destroy these rare races of people in order to maintain their power and in order to accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Which is something that we could have surmised, but essentially is being confirmed here, that it's not just we're trying to wipe out these races because they rebelled against us or because they pose some sort of threat to us or just for fun. We're doing it for fun, but actually that, like, in order to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish, we have to wipe them out. I don't know if it's because these rare races look towards the sun god Nika, look towards the prophesized one in order, like, as their hope, and so they have to wipe out the races that still have hope in something other than themselves, or if it's something else. I'm really curious what your thoughts on that are. Anyway, as he's saying that, we're getting flashes of those rare races. We have the Buccaneers, we have Whitebeard explaining that atop the red line there used to be a land of gods up there. We see the Lunarians, who we know were also looking for Joy Boy. And then we have Pudding, who's a part of the Three-Eye tribe. Anyway, Bonnie declares that if I have to settle a score with anyone, it's Saturn. And Luffy, again, hyping her. Get him. He's laughing and cheering her on. And at the same time, as we see this big, goofy, derpy smile on him, we see her with clenched teeth, angry, tears in her eyes, preparing to throw her punch. And I love this full page so much for so many reasons. Your only options are slavery and death. History itself chose them for you. Those memories coming from Kuma and Bonnie responding to them by saying, "I'm gonna make you pay for what you did to my parents. I do not accept you as gods, but there are gods and heroes. And if I, because of the fate that was handed to me, because of what I was destined to have, because of whatever you believe in, I would have happily just died rather than be so alone. But I won't. I'm going to live because they wanted me to be alive. And then she remembers that her dad was thanking her for being born. This whole lead up to Bonnie's punch is so incredibly impactful to me because, again, like I mentioned, we have the potential, if I'm interpreting this correctly, reveal of these races were destined for obliteration because I imagine because they believed in something that wasn't the celestial dragons. They believed in sun god Nika, in Joy Boy. They were waiting for the prophesized one. And so the people that were trying to make themselves like gods had to smash that, had to squash that hope so that people could only hope in them. And then here in the next page, you have them trying to squash the hope in Kuma by telling him history itself chose your fate for you, which is nothing but slavery and death. And Bonnie saying, I reject that fate that you've chosen for me, that history and fate have chosen for me. I reject you as a god, and I choose to believe in the God of my people. Why? Because my parents, too, rejected the fate handed to them. They believed in me and in my future. They fought for me and my future, and so I will fight too. And she punches the one that has been the representative of this ideology in the manga and the one that personally harmed her own family. And I love this image of Bonnie preparing for the punch, and standing right behind her in an even bigger form is Luffy, ready to back her up with the biggest smile on his face. And then we actually see the punch, and she has the one punch that frankly probably didn't do a lot. Maybe it did some damage, but it wouldn't have done enough, I firmly believe. And then you have Luffy coming from behind, delivering all the punches that actually tear him to pieces. One could argue that Luffy defeated Saturn alone, because really his damage is what ended up tearing Saturn up. But he did it standing behind Bonnie so that she could land that center punch, so that she could participate in her personal liberation. Oh my goodness, it's so Luffy. It's so completely Luffy to not accept, even though he absolutely could have done this all himself, and again, one could argue, did, but instead to hype Bonnie up, to push her forward and to say, do it, Bonnie, go, and then to stand behind her to add all this backup force to make sure that what she sets out to do is accomplished. Oh my goodness, it's just so good. I expected, with the whole build-up, if you remember last week when we were talking about what's going to come next, and I remembered that Saturn was on the boat, right? And so we had this amazing sacrifice through Atlas, and I was like, well, this is great, this was awesome, but we still have one more yokai who's at the front of the boat, and, you know, Bonnie's there, Kuma's there, it looks like we've got one more sacrifice to come, probably going to be Kuma, could be Dory or Bragi, right? I love this. This is so much more powerful. This is so much more impactful. This is so much more thematically satisfying than if Kuma had than the obvious answer, which is one more sacrifice. And that's not to say that one more sacrifice won't come. That's not what I'm trying to say. It might. I'm just saying that for handling Saturn, the obvious answer was Kuma to stand up and sacrifice himself one last time and to die doing that very thing. Again, not saying that won't happen. I'm just saying that for the sake of handling Saturn in this moment, taking the time to allow Bonnie's personal arc to conclude in front of her father, and then showing her robotic, emotionless father whose entire personhood and emotion has been stripped from him by this person, to show him able to give just the tiniest hint of a smile as he watches his daughter fight alongside, emulating the one that they've been waiting for, taking down the one that has taken so much from them. It's just like, it's a symphony. It's a symphony. Also, Saturn blasted full of holes, being completely ripped to shreds is a really cool image. Like, it looks awesome. I wish Oda had even shown it to us more. I will say, okay, so let's talk about Saturn and if this is the end. So I do think that it could be the end of Saturn because he's ripped to pieces, because of just the thematic climax of this for Bonnie. My initial reaction is, oh, cool, this is great because we have 4 elders, so they shouldn't all be defeated in this arc. It would be very unsatisfying to introduce their yokai forms and then they're these immortal demons, and then, you know, we just take care of them. Like, I don't want that, obviously. But since there's 4 of them, destroying one in this really impactful moment and then still having 3 more to deal with could work. But here's the thing. First of all, Saturn has already been badly injured and then just regenerated before our eyes. But 2, I have this kind of inkling, and it kind of ties back to my thought about Imu being a representative of Abe no Same, which could, you know, very well be completely untrue. But I wonder if the yokai are specifically tied to Imu to the extent that them being immortal means they can't be destroyed until the one that created them, that controls them, that they bow to, is destroyed. So, you know, maybe next chapter we're going to watch Saturn regenerate before our eyes. He's in this tattered state, and we're going to see more clearly. We're going to see bigger images of him totally ripped to shreds, and then we're going to watch him come back together. And the reason is because in order to defeat them, we first have to defeat Imu. So all that to say, I don't think that this is the end of Saturn, though I do think that it would work to destroy 1 yokai and still have 3 more to go. I don't think that this is the end of Saturn. And I kind of have a hunch that no matter how many times we blast holes in these guys, no matter how many times we try to throw them into the water, because again, I still don't think that they have yokai devil fruit. I do think that they're yokai. No matter how many times we, chuck them into the air or explode them or whatever, it's only going to temporarily stall them so that we can get away until we finally face Imu, destroy him, and then we can go back and actually deliver hits that the damage stays, that it maintains, and we can finally defeat them. I don't know. I could be really wrong about that. Anyway, after all of that preamble, let me show you T-Scene's artwork for this week, because it is, of course, about Bonnie landing this punch. She really honed in on Bonnie's eyes, on those angry tears, and on her passion in delivering this punch to her oppressor. Stylistically, color-wise, I really, really love the emphasis on the light on Bonnie and on the impact and intensity of the punch that she's about to throw. It's that great contrast of the hope she carries, of that freedom that she's fighting for, as well as the power behind that fury and that rage. It really harkens back to what Vegapunk says in the last chapter and in this chapter, where he says, these people who refuse to buckle under any and all suppression, they are the ones who are the closest to the truth, ironically enough. And I just feel the power behind her fist, holding all that's brought her to this moment. As always, T-Scene's socials are linked in the description of this video. So also what Vegapunk does here is he reminds us that 25 years ago, Roger set off the Great Pirate Age, and then 2 years ago, Whitebeard reminded us, kind of revitalized that hope and that desire, but that all of that was merely a prologue to this new era. And a lot of this chapter was kind of recap, restating important information, and then the new information that we got in this chapter, as far as Vegapunk's message goes, is the person who winds up with it may not be the one Joy Boy desired. The fate of the world now rests in the hands of the one who finds it. The person who lays claim to the One Piece. This is a great way of indicating that the One Piece is more than just the MacGuffin. It's more than just that thing that keeps the plot moving forward, that keeps the Straw Hats motivated, but actually the fate of the world rests in the hands of the person who finds the One Piece. So once again, you know, we got to talk about, is it like a giant drain? You know, is it the answer to draining the ocean, the amount that it's raised up, or setting right the islands that have been sinking? Is it the thing that will allow us to be able to defeat Emu and stop the world government from their plots of destroying these rare races of people and making them, elevating themselves to the position of godhood? But we got this final spread, which at the top is the emperors, who are all on their way to the One Piece. Shanks just got the poneglyphs from Kid, and he was just in Elbaf, so assuming the last poneglyph is there, he's on his way to the One Piece. Luffy, that's been his goal all along, and he also is gonna go to Elbaf soon, we all think. So probably gonna get his final poneglyph too. Blackbeard, he has kind of a roundabout way of getting there. He has Pudding in his custody currently, and if her third eye awakens, he's good to go. Plus he has that one slimy guy. And then we also have sweet, wonderful Buggy, who honestly, I expect him to get there by tailing Shanks. I think he's going to be smarmy about it. I think he's going to say, I don't have any poneglyphs, so I'm just going to follow Shanks from behind and sneakily get to Laugh Tale with him. And I think Shanks will know full well what Buggy is doing and be fine with it. Just let it happen. I'll also bring up, this is an old theory that I think 2 years ago I made a video about, but I have for a very long time really liked the idea of the meeting of the four emperors happening on Laugh Tale. They all end up going to get the One Piece. They all end up on Laugh Tale. That's when we get our fight between Luffy and Blackbeard. That's when Shanks and Luffy get their reunion, and when Shanks fights side by side on Luffy's side. And then I had this whole Buggy theory that I won't revisit because that's more of a fan theory, but I still really like the idea of them all meeting for the first time, the four emperors coming together for the first time on Laugh Tale. And now that Oda has them all going for the One Piece, I don't know. It could happen. Anyway, this chapter also indicated that the world government might be on their way there, and then we have a Marine represented here, we have Dragon represented here. Looking east. We have a shadowy figure, we have Emu, Kobe, a representative of the good side of the Marines, Kuzan, a representative of a rogue agent, someone who's fighting not for a group of people, but rather for himself and his own beliefs and his own moral compass. We have Moon Guy, Shanks' dad, who I think would represent the forces behind Emu and the forces, the unknown military forces to come, maybe. And Sabo, who is also a part of the Revolutionary Army and also, you know, Luffy's brother and all of that. Now, I don't know who is the shadowy figure. My first thought was the man marked by flames. Seems especially relevant because Sabo is now being touted as the man marked by flames, and so having the true man marked by flames there is interesting to me, but honestly, I don't know. I don't have any huge, amazing theories about it. I think my main impact of this panel is just kind of Oda giving us a sneak peek into that final battle, the final set piece that, you know, here are some of the major players that will be there. And it just feels like an indication of, are you ready? Because we really are amping up to the end, which I am both excited and terrified for. I don't want it, but I am also very, very hyped. So what did you think of the chapter? What were your favorite parts? What were some of the things that you wanted to discuss? I would love to chat with you more in the comments. I'll see you again soon. Bye.